Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the immediate short-term price action on Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the yearly chart that everyone is sharing on Twitter. And we're going to talk about some on-chain metrics as well and what to expect in the immediate short-term and in the long-term for Bitcoin. Well, first let's talk about this chart, right? This is the yearly chart on Bitcoin. As you can see, this is combined 12 months. So it's basically every candle is 1 year. Just be sure you're looking at the right asset, because when you search Bitcoin on TradingView, you're going to find a lot of different charts and they all have different metrics, right? From different time frames. For example, if I go to, let me keep it here and let me go to Coinbase chart. The Coinbase chart has a different history time because Coinbase started trading Bitcoin not so long ago using this chart on TradingView, right? If I go to, I don't know, KuCoin, it's a different one, right? You're going to see few yearly candles. So just make sure, first of all, that you're looking at what TradingView called the history index, which is pretty much all the history of Bitcoin, right? You're going to have 12 candles in that chart. Without further ado, let's jump into it, right? Let's talk about what the heck is that thing. So what you're gonna see usually on the internet is this chart right here, right? They can apply colors. They can have colors. So basically, there's one red candle right here, which is one down candle, and one red candle right here. Some people are using the wrong chart because the first one is not a red candle. Of course not. It's the first one, right? So price went from 0 to something, so it cannot possibly be a red candle, right? Just be sure of that. Okay, so the first one is green, 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 green. It's 4 greens in a row, 1 red. And then 3 greens in a row, 1 red. Now we just had 3 greens in a row as well, and people are speculating what is going to be the next one, right? My opinion, it's irrelevant. What is green or red, how many years, the sequence, it's absolutely irrelevant, right? Because what people are looking at here is the log chart. So it goes from 2010 to 2022, which means it's too much, right? It's a too much big period to analyze what's happening. Between 2010 and now, everything has changed in the world. COVID has happened. Markets are going parabolic since 2010. In 2007, we had the bubble, the crisis, the real estate crisis in US. That was a big impact over all the markets for 2 years. So remember, in 2009, Bitcoin did not exist, and 2009 was a pretty bad year. If I go back there, I have that chart somewhere here. SP 500. So if you go back there, just looking at the same chart, right? This was the crash in 2007, right? Look at how horrendous that was. Was a 50% crash in 2 years for traditional markets. And since then, we're just going parabolic, right? Of 600%. This is SP 500, right? How that translates to Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin so far has only experienced the bull market in traditional markets. Did you get that? That is something that no one is talking about. It's so easy to understand, right? If you look at this, we never experienced in Bitcoin or in crypto this sort of situation. 2 years bear market. We never, right? Are we going to experience a bear market on traditional markets? Well, all the bears, they keep saying that. They keep calling the bear market of something like a 50%. What a 50% here looks like this, pretty much, right? So it would put SP 500 back to 2000, and that is basically 2016. It's going to raise all the last 5 years. Is that going to happen? We're going to talk about it, right? We're going to check. Okay, anyways, back to Bitcoin again. This, keep in mind, is the log scale. So that's the first thing you have to acknowledge, is the log scale. How does it look like the real chart, the real price? It's like this one here, right? This is not a log scale. This is log scale. This is not, right? So this is what the price looks like. In 2010 was just a blimp, right? We barely moved from $1 to, was not even $1, was under $1 basically. The second year from under $1 to $30, right? So pretty big move on the second year. So that's the only thing that log scale, in my opinion, it's good to look at the evolution of a very, very small like this one, right? Because this was absolutely insane. Was basically an evolution of how many percent? And I'm not even doing the right amount here. Let's say this is the right amount. Let's say we go from here to here. This is how much Bitcoin has gained over the last decade, okay? But again, this is just log scale. For me, it's good to analyze difference or comparison between the previous price, very, very small, and the current price. But that does not tell us the whole story, right? The whole story is price was very small because the asset was not even going to be traded. People were just speculating. No one knew what the technology was. And then in 2017, we had this big, big boom, right? People argue that 2013 was a cycle as well. We went from how much? $13 to almost $1,000, right? That was a big, big jump, yes, but it's still very, very early days. Here is what I consider adoption. This is what this price tells me, adoption, right? It's not a bull cycle. We're going to talk about bull cycles later on, but this is just adoption. And then, of course, all the people, all the whales that bought back in those years, that makes a lot of sense. People holding for 6 years, right? They see this big spike in the price. So anyone here that bought 6 years ago was in 2,000 profits, 2,000% profits. Of course they would sell. Of course they would drop the bags and put the price back down to 80%. Right? But that does not remove the adoption curve. Look at this, was much, much higher than before. Same thing is what I see here in those 2 years that we are. So that's why people keep calling bull market, bull cycle, bear market, bear cycle. And I say bullshit, bull cycle, right? It's all bullshit. That's what it is. This, what tells me, is adoption. Look at the facts. What are the facts? More exchange now than anywhere, than any time previously before. Major sponsorships from Binance, Crypto.com, Coinbase being listed, KuCoin. It's so many exchanges, right? Bybit, Femex as a trading exchange future. Now they have spot as well, but that's how they started before. So adoption curve, everyone was saying, hey, you know what? This technology is very cool, that is likely to be like the internet. It's likely to be the future. So let me invest in it in all kind of ways. It's not just people buying assets. So people buying those assets, that is, in my opinion, irrelevant. For the technology, irrelevant, right? That is pure speculation, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. What matters is this adoption curve. Here we had a big spike. Here, another big spike in adoption. So what could we expect next? Right? As the world evolves, and that's why I made my channel, that's why my channel is all about technology, is crypto art, because this is the architecture of the technology, right? I believe this will continue growing over time because it's adoption, right? So more likely, instead of people showing you this chart, which many people will do, right? Many people will do. They will show this chart. And let me do something here just real quick. So many people will show this chart with maybe the monthly candles or the weekly candles, and they will say, hey, this is the history of Bitcoin, right? A lot of channels are doing this. A lot of channels. They're counting as a band, a curving band, but this curving band is going down over time because they're looking at the log scale. And of course, that makes sense. Now, if they flip to non-log scale, what is expected? What do I expect here in the non-log scale chart, right? Even if I change to the same view, what do I expect here? What do I see? So what we expect here is more likely to see a curve going up because this is adoption. Of course, we're going to have a lot of ups and downs, but this is adoption. So overall, over years, we're going to keep going up. Why going up? Because this is a new technology that the world needs. That's the missing point that absolutely everyone is missing. Most of the people criticizing Bitcoin is missing. It's not about Bitcoin. It's not about the first technology. It's about crypto. It's horrendous. It's just insane to think that human beings, for decades, we use something like paper to account money. We tried all kind of things. You know that history in the past, right? That's very cliche. We use shells and precious metals and so on, blah, blah, blah. But with technology, this is the first time that we are using for money, for finance. So we are rethinking and restructuring how do we humans understand finance. This is what crypto is all about, right? Is recreating the future with something much, much better, fixing all the problems that we saw in the past. First problem, well, no one can steal your money, right? People can still point a gun to your head and say, hey, withdraw all your money and give me, right? People can still do that, but people cannot steal your money in the sense that it's happening everywhere in every single country, which is inflation. Inflation is the way to steal your money. And we thought, hey, inflation is just a subproduct of something that we created. It's something that we caused. If you look at, again, SP 500, SP 500, in my opinion, is the best indicator of inflation. This is people afraid that their paper money will lose value. They know their paper money will lose value because of this. We saw this big event here and we figured out that, hey, this is not going to work. We're not going to end up richer in the future if we just keep money. Why? Because we keep printing, not money, we keep printing humans on Earth. More humans. Year after year, we go over 7 billion, 7.2, 7.5, 7.8, 8, 8.2, 10, and we keep increasing. That increases the workload, increases the offer, increases the number of people looking for a job. So also increases demand, of course, but the difference between the richest and the poorest will become more and more prominent, right? Of course, if you have 1% being the richest ones and you have a million people, that's just 1%. But now if the people grow to be 20 million, you're not going to double that 1% of the richest, right? They will keep the same circle. So now the percentage is smaller. I hope you guys understand that I hope I could, make a good job of explaining. Anyways, let's go to the Glassnode charts. So this is a Twitter account that you can follow. Very, very good. Is Glassnode Alerts. So very often they post charts on-chain metrics that can help us to understand what the market is doing as well. And those three charts that I took here today, it's very interesting because they show the USDT number of transfers, right? And USDC, let me put those two charts here, that is stable coins transfer. And they are in all-time low over the last 8 months, 6 months, 22 months, right? That's all-time low. So people are arguing that, we are using stable coins to pump the price of Bitcoin. This is the ultimate answer that those people are dumb? No, we're not using stable coins to pump the price. We're using these stable coins for a lot of other things that I acknowledge and I agree that could be harmful and could make scammers, could make a lot of money using stable coins, because that's refugee, right? You basically borrow money or lend money and then you use stable coins as your asset and not your collateral. Well, there are many ways to do money with stable coins, but definitely just purely pumping the price is no longer effective. You could argue that that was happening in the previous years, in the previous cycles, right? But that's no longer the case now. Why? Because now the asset is too big. The asset class is a little bit too big. There are a lot of adoptions, so you don't pump and dump the price just with this little amount of stable coins, right? So I'm going to take here USDC and USDT as the two major ones. Now, another chart that is interesting to me is the adoption of Ethereum, is the number of Ethereum address holding 0.01 coins. Look at how this is going straight up in the last few months. And this to me tells me something. Either the NFT hype or either the DeFi hype or everything that Ethereum is bringing to the game is definitely working, because there are a lot of new addresses or people holding more Ethereum. But the fact is, people still believing more in Ethereum right now, rather than just believing Bitcoin is the king and Bitcoin is the crypto, which personally I don't believe, right? All right, finally, let's have a look at the smaller time frames and what is going on here. How can we expect good trades this year, right? Well, nothing has changed since my last video. As I explained, you saw this big trend line, this downtrend. We're in this trend line for more than a month since all-time high. We still, well, if you count to here, that was 45 days of a downtrend on Bitcoin. So finally, we broke this line. And I said in the video that if we were to break this line at any given point, I was drawing this line right here saying, hey, maybe this is going to happen. In the week fill video, if you missed that, please go back and watch. So that's what I said. And in the same video, you're going to see a very one part that I said, hey, but if at any point in time, we break this line and we found support over it, then I turn bullish again. And that's exactly what happened, right? We had a major break. Of course, breaking this trend line would be huge because it was such a big trend line that everyone was just expecting. Once we broke it, boom, skyrocket, right? That was a very good, nice trade. But look at how we found resistance right at that level. I keep stressing, have those levels in that chart, the precise levels, and they will never, ever fail you, right? Look at how precise they are. So we face resistance. Yes, you could close the short, the longs here. That's what I did. Most of my longs, I took profits, and then price dropped. I longed again. We went up. That time, I was naive enough to expect that, hey, we might break it. So I didn't close my longs here, my current longs. So I basically had longs from here. And the price went down, 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 down. When we were about here, back to the trend line again, I re-added to my longs. So basically my entries are now kind of in the middle. My entries are here, I still in red. But once we go above this, my longs will be in profit. And I expect us to hold this as support because it was the previous week. And then shoot up again. This is the immediate short term, right? So I'm talking here about the month of January. This is what you can expect. So I am expecting at least a green month in January, right? Does that mean the whole year will be green? No, the year can be red. But overall, over a decade, I expect Bitcoin to keep going up, right? So nothing is stopping us to have similar pattern as here. So we could very much make a little wick here, right? Or a smaller wick, just like this one. So let's say we make a wick to 60K and then we go back down, not so down, but let's say here 39K. And that's where we close the year. That's very likely, right? That's possible. That could happen. And that would not be the end of the world. As I said, over a decade, this is going up in a curve, meaning we're going to see much higher prices in the future. That's what I expect as adoption comes in, right? Adoption is still very early days. Once we have one of the major players like Google, Apple, Amazon jumping to crypto and having something to the wild customer, to the wild range of the customer, we're going to have massive gains. And that's the time that I'm looking for when Apple, for example, putting their own hardware wallet support to crypto, for example. But that is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years, probably 4 years, 5 years or more. So I'm expecting, again, over a decade, we continue up, but there's nothing saying that this new year candle has to be green. It doesn't, right? It doesn't has to be green. Anyways, back here, January, short term, I expect more upside. If that does not happen, what do I expect? Again, second scenario is we're going to bounce a little bit lower than the previous high and go lower. That's what you see. If you see that happening, then yes, we're going to continue the downtrend to lower levels, right? So this is what you should have an eye on. Keep this in your chart. It's a very small level, right? And I would say the precise level is at the top of the week, right here. So once you see we're going closer, pay attention. If we break it and find support over it, then we shoot up. If we get rejection on this level, then we go lower. Okay? That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoy. Press the like, subscribe, and see you on the next one.